Good morning. This week we are going to focus on vocabulary and some comprehension skills. We're going to be working on the comprehension skills of sequence. That's where you look at the order that the events are happening in a story. And the events in the story, that's the plot. So you're looking at the plot, you're looking at what's happened, and the sequence is the order, what comes first, what comes second, what comes third, and so on. We're also looking at context clues, and so knowing the meaning of words that you may not normally know, but you're looking at how they're used in the context around them. That's a very, very important reading skills to be able to do that. So that's probably one of the most important reading skills is to be able to use those context clues. So we'll have some IXLs on those. What I want to do first of all is go over our vocabulary words for this week. So if you look at the screen here, I'm going to just go through these little pictures and discuss them briefly with you. They will be on your test Friday. We'll have a test Friday on reading comprehension and on vocabulary. So here we go. The first word is afford. And you've probably heard your parents say, oh, we can't afford that. I know I've said it before. So afford um, in our meanings for this week means that if you're able to buy something, if you have enough money to pay for it. So it looks like they're looking at a price tag here to see if they can afford to buy this shirt. All right. A lot of money related words because of our story this week. Okay. It's a good story. It's one of my favorites. All right. The next word, you're probably familiar with this word, is loan. All right. So if you loan someone money, you're giving it to them, but you're hoping that they will eventually pay you back. We loan things other than money. You might loan someone a pencil. We might loan someone a jacket. All right. So you can loan all kinds of things. And then hopefully the borrower, the person that you're loaning it to, gives it back at some point or pays you back if it's money. All right, so those are probably words you've heard before. Now, profit, another money related word. Profit, if you were to do something to try to make money, for example, these kids have a lemonade stand, the profit is the money that you make after you pay the expenses. So, yes, they've made all this money here in this jar, but you've got to consider they had to buy maybe this tablecloth at the Dollar Tree or something. They had to buy these cups. They had to buy the lemonade, and so you would subtract the money that they've paid, um, their expenses out of what they made, and that is your profit. Profit is the money left over after the expenses have been paid. And all businesses hope to make a profit. That's the whole point of them, right? All right, the word prosper. You may have heard of being prosperous, which is a form of that word. If something prospers, it does well. Okay, so it looks like this lady looks like she's growing lettuce. She's very prosperous here with her farming. She's got lots of it. All right, you might prosper as a student. You might be very successful and do well. You may prosper in all kinds of things throughout life. But prosper is a good thing. We want to be prosperous. We want to succeed and do well. All right, so these are all just some little things. I don't usually read through those. I just talk about them. Um, Risk. All right, now this is showing firefighters. They're risking their lives to put out a fire. Our story, though, is not so much of that type of risk. Our story is more of a financial risk. So sometimes you might invest some money in something and you're kind of taking a risk with your money because you don't know if you're going to earn it back or not, if your business is going to be successful. So that's another type of risk that people take. So a risk is where you invest something or you're kind of doing something that you're not sure what the outcome's going to be. If it's, may be good, it may be bad. All right, savings, I think that's a pretty well-known word. Savings is just when you're saving something, right? You're not spending it right away. Money can be saved, lots of things you can save, but it's your money that you've set aside for the future. That's savings. Scarce. If something is scarce, there's just not much of it. And just from looking at this picture, looks like water is scarce in this place, from the dryness and the fact that this man is obviously going somewhere to get some water. So if something is scarce, then there's just not much of it. It's going to be very hard to get, and it's going to be valuable. Usually, when things are scarce, as far as our economy goes, they're going to be more expensive because if it's harder to get, it's going to cost more. All right, wages. Wages is the money you earn. So your parents, if they have a job, they earn wages. I earn wages. You might do chores and you might earn some wages for that. So it's like income that you've earned. Looks like these boys have been raking leaves to earn some wages. Okay, and that is it. Those rest of those words are from another week. All right, I want to read this little story with you, and you're going to have some questions that you're going to answer. They're going to be based on these vocab words. Okay, so that'll come here in a minute. All right, this is called a fresh idea, and our big idea this week is how do we get the things we need? All right, so we all need things. And how do we get what we need? Well, again, we're talking about economy, we're talking about money. And so thinking about your financial needs, you have to have a way of meeting your needs. All right, and there's some marks on here, but we'll just ignore those. All right, a fresh idea. Let me blow this up just a tad. There we go. A fresh idea. How do we get the things we need? One bright Saturday morning, Molly and her mom walked around the neighborhood. That is, her mom walked, but Molly ran, skipped, jumped over puddles, and visited the neighbors' dogs. Molly paused to look at the budding trees on her block. I can't wait until summer, she said, especially for Mrs. Fair's great tomatoes at her market stand, she pointed. Molly's mom stood looking at the empty lot where the market set up every summer weekend. She looked at Molly. Honey, Mrs. Fair told me last week that she had to close her stand. She's really getting too old to run it anymore. Molly turned, stared, and put her hands on her hips. But Mrs. Fair's stand can't close, she said. It's the only place in the neighborhood we can buy fresh, delicious tomatoes. Then she added, to show she wasn't being selfish, everyone needs fruits and vegetables for a healthy diet. After they got home, Molly headed out to her backyard swing to think. If only I could plant a garden, she thought. But our yard is way too small. Just then she noticed her neighbor, Mr. Taylor, looking at his daffodils. These are daffodils, by the way, those little flowers, they come up in spring. Molly knew he was thinking about how he had planted those flowers with his wife. This was the first spring since his wife had died, and Molly saw the sadness on his face. Then she had an idea. All right, so thinking about our title, a fresh idea. So it's kind of coming into play here, Molly, with this idea. All right, paragraph 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, it says circle the words that help you determine what diet means. All right, and I actually have this circled from last year. Says here, everyone needs fruits and vegetables for a healthy diet. And so we had circled fruits and vegetables because that kind of helped us figure out, oh, a diet must be things you're eating. Okay. So, okay, underline the character introduced in paragraph 4. It's over here. Is this before or after Molly thinks about her problem? Well, in paragraph 4, this is where she sees her neighbor, Mr. Taylor, looking at his daffodils. And that is after the problem, because in the previous paragraph, that's where her mom told her about the vegetable stand being closed. I don't know about you, but I can definitely see where this is going, okay? It's pretty obvious, isn't it? All right. Molly cleared her throat, and Mr. Taylor looked up. Molly decided to walk over to the fence. Hi, Mr. Taylor, she said. He waved and turned away. Wait, Molly cried. Taking a risk while she still felt brave, she rushed to gather her thoughts. Mr. Taylor, Mrs. Fair isn't doing her tomato stand anymore because she's getting old. So I'd like to grow tomatoes. I don't want to get in the way of your flowers, though. I mean, I really like tomatoes. All right, notice the word risk. It says taking a risk while she still felt brave. So there's definitely a clue there that's saying, okay, you have to be brave to take a risk. So even if you didn't know what that word meant, you could kind of figure it out just from the way they used it. Okay, next paragraph down here. Suddenly, Mr. Taylor smiled. Molly, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but you've made me smile. Reasons to smile have been scarce lately. What do you want to do? Again, remember his wife passed away, so reasons to smile have been scarce. He hasn't had very many reasons to smile. He's been sad. Next paragraph. As Mr. Taylor listened, an idea came to him. I still need a place to plant my flowers, but there's room for tomatoes. How about I make you a loan? I'll let you use a plot of land in my yard. I'll help you, and when your garden starts to prosper, you can repay me with a few tomatoes. All right, so he's going to loan her some land, and when her garden prospers, in other words, when her garden is doing well. Molly and Mr. Taylor shook hands on this deal. But first, Mr. Taylor said, you'll have to make an investment by buying some tomato plants at the nursery. Molly thought, well, I have some savings from my allowance, and I was saving to buy a computer game. She paused, but I'd rather have tomatoes, so let's start right away. The next day, Molly bought all the tomato plants she could afford. Mr. Taylor taught Molly how to prepare the soil and place the plants. Finally, Molly placed stakes as supports in the ground to help hold the plants up. Mr. Taylor explained, once the tomatoes come, the heavy fruit makes the branches bend. Then all they could do was water, pull weeds, and wait. Yes, you've probably seen this. A lot of people will stake their tomatoes or put tomato cages around them because they do get heavy and tend to, and you don't want your tomatoes on the ground because then they get rot. All right, so moving on. When the fruit ripened, there were more juicy red tomatoes than even Molly could have imagined. There is no way I can eat all these, she realized. On Saturday, Molly and Mr. Taylor carried several crates of ripe tomatoes to the market, and by the day's end, they had sold them all. Not only did I get back the money I invested, said Molly, but I also made a profit of $20. So the profit is the money that she made, after she, considered what she had invested, what she had spent to get started. Mr. Taylor said, those are also your wages. You've earned that money. Molly beamed and said, Mr. Taylor, maybe you could sell some of your flowers and we could run a market stand together. Mr. Taylor, picturing a garden of zinnias and marigolds, was already looking forward to next summer. Okay, notice that word beamed. I just thought that might be a good one to practice context clues. It says Molly beamed and said. Okay, so if you think about that, she's happy. She's coming up with another idea of something they can do. So if someone is beaming, okay, this is not like a Star Trek thing. It's she's smiling. Her face is like just kind of glowing with happiness. All right. Yeah, let me move on here. So you've got to see all the words here. Let's take a look at these questions. You're going to be answering these on something here in a minute. Shoot, what did I do? Help. There we go. So the word afford. Jill looked at the price tag to see if she could afford to buy the blouse. Name something you would like to be able to afford. So this is a fun question. You want to afford a Mustang convertible? Do you want to afford a swimming pool? All right, so what do you think? Now, when you answer these questions, I would like you to use the word in your answer. So you're going to say, I would like to be able to afford a new video game, okay? Something like that. Loan. Lynn asked her mom for a loan of $5. When have you made a loan to someone? Again, use the word loan in your answer. You could add an ed to it because you might want to make it past tense, like I have loaned someone a pencil in class, or I have loaned someone my jacket. Profit. Jim made a profit of $5 from selling lemonade. When have you made a profit? Now, maybe you've had a yard sale or something and you made a profit by selling something. Maybe you never have. So if that's the case, you might say, I have never made a profit because I've never sold anything. You can still answer the question. You can still use the word even if you haven't. Okay, so moving on to the word prosper. With enough care, a garden can prosper. What other things help people to prosper? Well, remember, prosper means you're doing well, you're being successful. So, something that can help you prosper is getting a good education can help you to prosper, right? Because you're going to be able to um, probably get better jobs and things in the future. Working hard can help you to prosper because you're going to be able to accomplish a lot more things. Risk. Firefighters take a great risk when they enter a burning building. In what other jobs do people take a risk? So there's lots of jobs you can probably think of where people are going to do something risky, like a police officer or a someone in the military, or I don't know. You can probably think of lots more than what I can even think of. All right, moving on. Savings. Ray sets aside $1 a week and puts it into his savings. What would you do with some savings? So, again, make sure you use the word savings in your answer. If I had some savings, I would blank. Scarce. Water can become scarce during hot, dry weather. What is another word or phrase for scarce? That one may be a little tough. Here's what you can always do when you have a question like that, and if you have a question like this next one that's asking for a synonym for wages. Sam earns wages for raking leaves every autumn. All right, you can go to dictionary.com or you can go to thesaurus.com. I'll just go to thesaurus.com. A thesaurus is a tool where you can look up synonyms for words. So I'm just going to put in um, shoot, I forgot what the word was. I was looking at it. Oh, scarce and wages. Okay. So I'm going to look up the word scarce, and it's going to pull up some synonyms for me. All right. Now, I don't want to pick some word that I'm never going to be able to use. Rare. I think rare would be a good one. Or limited. Or few. Okay. I'm just going to skim through and find some that I actually think, are usable. So, what is another word or phrase for scarce? Another word for scarce is limited, or another word for scarce is few. Advertisements. Or another word for scarce is rare, all right? So that's pretty easy. Now let's look up a synonym for wages. Now, usually, if you look a word up, it's not going to put the S on it. It's going to say wage. Well, it does actually. Wow. All right, so pay, salary, income, earnings. So this thesaurus tool is very, very handy. It's actually in with dictionary.com. If you go to dictionary.com, it has the option to switch over to thesaurus.com. But anyway, so that's a very, very good tool for you to get used to using. So I'm going to go with pay, income, earnings. Let's see, look at the question again. What is a synonym for wages? Well, a synonym for wages is income. That's what I would use. All right, so that is all for today. I think just getting familiar with the words, and that'll be it. So I hope to see you guys tomorrow in person. So have a good one, a good rainy day. Bye.